Yo folks, and welcome to the channel. My name is Bork. In today's video, we'll be talking about when to sell Solana NFTs or when to take profits, when we'll also talk about some projects I'm looking into. Let's go ahead and jump right into this with Solana Monkey business right here. So you guys are seeing some price fluctuations and you're like, hey Bork, are you gonna be selling today just because things aren't looking good? Personally, no, because when I look at a 1 month perspective, everything is sort of the same, and not to mention the current owners keeps increasing. Well, what if you don't have stats on a newly minted project and you don't understand when to sell because you don't have fancy graphs and stuff? Well, let's say you minted, I don't know, like the gods right here, and the gods mint, for example, was 3 SOL, and it jumps to a price of like 6 SOL or 5 SOL or whatever, right? Well, you have hit a price target. That's the most important part. When you mint a project, you look at something that's new and you've never seen it before, and you're like, it's a stealth mint or whatever. I think it's the next Boryoku Dragons. You don't sell when the thing hits like 100 SOL, all right? This applies mostly to newer folks. You sell based off of a price that you set early on. So Boryoku Dragons minted for 10 SOL. It came out, it was like at 10 SOL, 12 SOL trading, and you're like, that's a 10x. You take that as a newer person. You don't wait until it goes to 30 or 40 or whatever. And the reason for that is because price targets are so important, because if you hold something and you get lost in like the Twitter sort of euphoria, the next thing you know, it just goes to zero. That's not good, all right? Especially for someone new, especially if you have everything riding on that one project, all right? You're like, hey, I went all in on pesky penguins or whatever. I minted it at 0.25 and it went to 0.1. Am I going to sell? No, you wait for your price target, or you sell when you feel like it's not going to make it anymore. But the majority of projects that are newer, they have a difficult time going above mint price, mostly because there is no long-term hype for it. There's no FOMO for it. And some of you might be wondering, how do you generate FOMO? Like, what does the project need to do? Well, there's stealth mints and stuff like Boryoku Dragons, where there's a 1011. That's a key part right there. The supply is super low. Not to mention, you have balls of steel when you stealth mint stuff, or you mint a stealth, because you understand that this could go to zero at any time. And this is why I personally don't do stealth mints. I didn't mint Boryoku Dragons. Do I regret that? Yes, of course I regret that. Like, it jumped to 120 SOL. Who would not regret that? But the point is stealth mints for me is a no, because I don't understand enough about the project. But maybe let's say you do, and you're like, hey, my price target's at 2 SOL, then you just take it, all right? Because you need to get liquid enough so that you can get comfortable with holding the bag. What do I mean by that? I mint a bunch of projects all the time. You'll see it on Twitter. Like, I'll just be degenning left and right, all right? And I'm not going to mint every single project that's gonna be a banger. What I'm trying to tell you is that I'm comfortable holding some of my NFTs and them going to zero, because I am playing with profits and I have liquidity. And I have price targets that I want to hit, and essentially when I hit those, I will sell. Essentially, my stuff like Thugbirds, Stylish Studs, you know, my top projects, turtles, they will outperform the rest of the projects that I don't mint appropriately. Or for example, you know, Shadowy Super Coder DAO, which is also Genesis Go right here. Now, some of you might be wondering, all right, I don't mint stealth projects. How do I mint something like Shadowy Super Coder DAO that's performing insanely well? Well, the thing is with Shadowy Super Coder DAO, they have insane technology. They are supporting the Solana network with all of the different validators, RPC servers. All the things that they essentially do is unparalleled across the industry when it comes to Solana NFTs. Like, no one else can do it. Now, can you find projects where no one else is doing the exact same thing? Obviously, it's very difficult. Solsteads right here had a big sort of grasp on like the NFT gallery space for quite some time. And then obviously now we have a bunch of projects that sort of do NFT galleries, and it's difficult to compete. So for example, we have something like Deathlets that's doing really well. I can't wait to mint this tomorrow, I believe. I don't know when this releases, so excuse me if it releases later, but look at this stuff right here. This is Deathlets, our first like VR gallery sort of deal, and I absolutely love it. Is there going to be something else that pops up like this in the future? I don't know. Will this go off? I don't know. The important part is you set a price target that you feel comfortable with, and essentially you are like, hey, once Deathlets hits XYZ, XYZ, I'm going to sell and take profits and have liquidity. That's just something that needs to be done at the very beginning. It's really difficult to essentially diamond hand projects at the beginning. Maybe when you have liquidity, maybe when you are comfortable losing some, gaining some, making bigger bets, then sure, you can do that. Or you can just make big bets all the time. But the most important part is you have price targets. You have something that you're comfortable with essentially selling at. But that's my biggest advice when it comes to how to sell. You set a price target, you have liquidity, and that way you can ignore market volatility whenever it does happen, or you can essentially ignore the noise that's happening. And you also don't get lost in the Twitter hype and all the different things that are happening, because yes, we can be hyped, yes, we can ride it to zero, but at the end of the day, please be financially responsible enough to have food on the table so that you can actually feed yourself at the end of the day. But let's go ahead and look at some of the projects I'm looking at. We're talking about Desolates right here, you know, the VR gallery. This is unparalleled. No one else is doing this to this level. I know Neo Nexus is definitely going to accomplish this, but Desolates has a working project, or essentially concept, that you can already see. But just note, Neo Nexus is partnering with NFTs, this site that holds like all my NFTs that you can see right here. They have the NFT gallery already available, technically speaking. So Neo Nexus will have competition with Desolates and Solsteads and all the different projects with NFT galleries. But that's like the first project. Next one is going to be Portals right here. I really like this project because essentially it's gonna be the first one where you can actually configure a room. You get like an apartment complex. There's been plenty of people able to access the demo, and they're essentially sharing like all this stuff right here. You can see like their Solana NFTs are hanging on like the boards and stuff, and you can essentially play games within them. Is this like a metaverse play in some ways? Yes, it definitely is. This is something I'm greatly interested in because this is utility that I haven't seen before. And then the next project that I'm also looking into is SOL Illuminati right here. I think it is really cool, or SOL Illuminati. And that's mostly because if you jump into the Discords right here, obviously I'm in a bunch. This is the one with SOL Illuminati. They have a bunch of different chats that holds, hey, you know, the I spotted 8,378 at this price or whatever, right? And this is a really good way to sort of snipe rares or sort of watch the market. What SOL Illuminati is trying to do is they want to provide a set of tools where you can track like SOL information, market analytics, trading BI. You know, the eye will do all of that for you. It'll come in the form of the Discord bot that you sort of saw. And this is a product-based NFT project. In some ways, Genesis Go is a very similar thing, a product-based NFT project. And I know a lot of projects are trying to become product-based, but this one is dedicated to that sense. But the biggest thing that you will notice, all of the projects that I'm looking into, obviously none of them are stealth, because a stealth mint involves like it releasing that day of or within a couple of days, and it generates FOMO to the level of Boryoku Dragons, all right? You know, someone will be like, hey, I just minted XYZ project, low supply, high demand, you create FOMO, and that's where you know like a stealth mint will be insanely successful, because the price just keeps going up and people don't paper hand, and not a lot of projects will essentially reach Boryoku Dragons. I know people are waiting for the next Boryoku Dragons. There's Boryoku Dragons derivatives releasing left and right, and in my opinion, like a lot of them will fail because essentially it's copying the project. A project, in order for a stealth mint to be successful, it cannot be a derivative in the sense that it does the exact same thing, all right? If a project releases and has the exact same concepts, it essentially has to compete with something that already exists. So unless something, you know, that Boryoku Dragons hasn't done gets released in a stealth fashion, then yes, that stealth mint may be successful, but a majority of them won't be successful, mostly because there's not enough noise. You know, there needs to be some sort of Twitter hype in order for a stealth mint to be successful, because crypto Twitter is the best way to essentially market your project, the best way to get known, because this is where a lot of the information lives. Yes, you could pass information in Discords and be like, hey, this is gonna be a great project because XYZ said, but there's more eyes, there's more people on Twitter essentially looking at stuff. And if you're worried like, hey, what if like I hold a project, or what if I didn't mint something and it pops off 2 months later, or it completely dies? Well, if your project, you've been holding it for a month and there's no noise whatsoever, there's 2 months, 3 months, whatever, it's really hard to recover from a very low price unless like something crazy happens. So in my opinion, you just never know when it comes to NFTs. I cannot tell you when to sell at the end of the day. All I can tell you is plan with a price target and sell at that price and always take profits. Don't let people dictate how you sell stuff, all right? Just because I diamond hand SMBs doesn't mean you diamond hand SMBs with me. Just because I'm in SMBs doesn't mean you FOMO and jump into SMBs. You have a price target, you do your research, you understand the project, you know the devs, you know who's behind the project, you know what's going on. You can ride it to zero, you can go to the moon, or you can sell it at a certain price. It always changes, but at the end of the day, you always have to take profits because you have to put food on the table when it comes to, you know, actually living and surviving, all right? But anyways, if you made it this far in today's video, consider subscribing, dropping a like, leaving a comment, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. Once we hit 3,000 subs, we're doing a giveaway. Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a fantastic day. And if you learned anything today, just take profits when you need them and sell when you are most comfortable. All right, see you guys in the next one.